Expect you to be the players that we've got if he gets out of this pool, winners round 1 and winners round 2. So let's see how this matchup goes up against Cxti, who has locked in on the Kaya here, going up against Neeze and Lucian.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a fair bit, if not quite a bit, of Lucian today. It kind of started with Luna in terms of being a Lucian who was becoming a top player and becoming a tournament winner several times. But Cxti, man, this would be a huge upset for Cxti, kind of controlling the ground here. He's coming into this tournament seed 28 against seed 5. So Cxti, by the stats, he's kind of fish out of water here. He's out of his territory, but we'll see if he can hold this one out. I mean, the way he's starting this one, still in the yellow. He's throwing out a lot of attacks. Cxti's been getting a lot of punishes so far. That's where a lot of this damage has been coming. There you go. With punishes, amazing from Cxti.
Yeah, let's see if Neeze...
he did that the wrong way.
Off the pickup. I think he wanted to fade a little bit further back, and that recovery, even while sweating, will take Neeze off the top. I like the dynamic that we have with the legend picks coming out from Neeze and Cxti as well, where we can say these are probably as meta in the one space as we can, where we have like Luna's Lucian and we have Impala and Paula's Kaya. They're going up against each other in the 1v1. So this is cool to be able to see this matchup kind of being played differently by all sorts of different players. Neeze trying to get that knockup back. That was tough recovery effects. Cxti's got to dodge the stage, and a perfectly timed dodge with that guitar stare. I thought that the edge guard was going to be easy for Neeze, but Cxti making it very difficult.
Yeah, and part of that was because Neeze wanted to hold on to the weapon so that he could finish up with the slap. He does get the blaster side air to get the KO, evens up the stocks. He's only about 50 damage behind, so he shrunk that lead all of a sudden. He hit that one string towards the end of the last the end of the last stock that didn't actually immediately culminate in the stock itself with that edge guard, but still put out a ton of damage very quickly. He's just looking for those standard guitar startups to get that string. He's gonna keep going. He still gets the chase and follows up the nair and extends it off the soft platform.
Uses the weapon throw to get that dodge in. Didn't follow anything after that, but that was a good 7 hits from Neeze there. That breaks it gets in the lead here, but it's Cxti with the sidelight, D-light side air, puts Neeze off to the right side of the stage. Both players missing their hits there. I wanted to comment about that when I last saw it, so we're gonna see it again. Nice neutral signature. That's gonna be the knockout. Cxti is doing this landing nair on Spear, where normally I feel like you put out the nair to get a dodge or a jump in or somebody falling onto you and it covers that space, but Cxti's like almost bouncing off his opponent with the nair and then following up with a falling stare or a pogo, depending on where in the neutral air his opponents get hit. And we just see him got a really successful nair there into a nice knockout off the top of that neutral signature, and I want to see if he's going to keep doing it here with the Spear.
Weapon starving game coming out from Cxti. He swapped off of the Spear onto the bow to deny the weapon. Okay, GC Insig just all of a sudden coming out. The recovery not KOing off the top. That's going to be that lower string. A great whiff punish again. That one should do it. Yes, it does. Didn't need the D-light setup. Just grabbed it right off the top. Again, Neeze still about 50, maybe 60 damage behind Cxti at this point, which the way the second stock started off, I thought Neeze was going to turn everything around, but no, man. Cxti is still focused, still doing a great job. Now has Neeze essentially in the orange after hitting that Spear side air. Okay, string starting to come out. He caught it with the bottom side of the dare!
Weapon throw, can he get the ground pound? They're both sweating. Neeze misses the ledge. Neeze actually goes in as Neeze, and that's game on the very end of game number 1, where we actually got to see the rare end of match fan first screen, where on the last stock you drop without getting hit by your opponent, and that is because Neeze was certain, and I don't blame him. He went for the dare side air combo off of the dodge being red, where he was expecting that to spike, but that was actually a product of Lucian's incredibly low force live on screen there, right? Because he went for the amazing combo, and Cxti was just kind of like, well, I didn't jump during any of that, so I'll just go back to stage, and Neeze couldn't even make it with a dive kick as game number 1 goes over to Cxti.
And that's got to be a really heartbreaking loss for Neeze, because he was behind so much of the match and then all of a sudden had that explosion right at the end. We thought he was going to take it. Neeze himself put his head in his hands and was so flabbergasted the way he lost that game.
Yeah,
there's the D-light side.
I've never quite seen an SD like that.
Yep, that was brutal. That's like a Pavelski level SD almost.
I don't think Pavelski's ever come close to that one. that was something else. That was like highlight reel into what? Even the game's got a question mark at the end. Let's get into this game number 2. Neeze, even in damage here, but has controlled the entire time. Nice dash, jump pivot there. Doesn't even X pivot there, so like you could do a normal pivot where it just turns you around, you get the full momentum forward, but with blasters, because of how the dare and neutral air momentum works, if you do a certain timing with your pivot, you get this really cool diagonal motion. Nice down tick beauty.
That's where the X in X pivot comes for, is that kind of 45-degree movement that you have.
You end up either choosing with how you pivot your dare to cover the push-up column or the wall itself, and Neeze getting that downer there got a really nice edge guard, but Cxti with the dash back sideline gets the downline sider, catches the jump and the recovery. Neeze has to dodge back to the stage. and Cxti goes for a dodge down read. Neeze diagonal dodges up. Cxti still racking up the damage with the spear.
And you see how much that Cxti is able to do when Neeze is at the weapon disadvantage. That's going to interrupt the recovery. That's where that sort of sound effect and animation that came out, that's exactly what you saw. Neeze chasing him off stage.
And Cxti did something really smart there, actually. Because Neeze hit Cxti with the nair, he exchanged the jump that he got back with an exhausted recovery. So even though the recovery was gone, the poke goes for the edge guard there, and Cxti makes it back from that edge guard scenario and takes the lead. And this is a few times, Sparky, that we've seen where Neeze is like in complete control of the edge guard until suddenly the stock goes down, and Cxti takes the lead once again in game number 2.
Cxti's been doing such a fantastic job. Most of it has been on the spear. Like, we saw him throw away the spear to swap over the bow for a moment. That was really just to weapon starve Neeze, and that's been a really successful idea for Cxti. When he's at the weapon advantage, he's doing a fantastic job of adding up so much damage. Neeze, picked him up, plucked him out of the air, got the KO off the top, evening up the stocks. But Tazo, we're kind of in the same spot we were previously. Again, Neeze at a 50 damage deficit with Cxti in the lead here. Is he going to be able to finish this? He got the dodge.
Okay, yeah, this is the true test there, because he gets 5 good hits on the guitars, and the guitars versus the spear seems really good for Neeze. And like Cxti's so good with these dodge down reads against Neeze here. Both players vying for that first damage lead in the situation. The down sig almost works, but Neeze is a little bit patient on going back in, and the down sig could have taken Cxti's last stock. Nice dodge around. What's it going to be, Sparky? They're both in orange here. They've been hitting each other back and forth quite well.
I think they're starting to like get really nervous. Now we're getting towards the end of this. Cxti's trying to keep up pressure, but in like different times. He's like, okay, D-Light Sider. Yeah, he's going to send it over to the edge.
One more
Still has a weapon.
That's the game. Gets the recovery off
is it though? Yes, it is.
Really difficult to do, too. I mean, both versions of the D-Light recovery follow-up I think are really hard. The most common one is the grounded D-Light dash jump recovery. But when you're in the air, depending on what resources your opponent has, you could do that chase dodge for recovery and still catch them. And we saw Neeze do it. There was that dare edge guard that we were talking a lot about earlier on. And then we're going to be seeing that down tick hit right back from Cxti. But that was a great game from Neeze where we got to see him actually finish his food in game number 2.
Now, I love that weapon toss that we saw at the beginning. You know, it's something simple, like, you just threw the weapon toss to bonk him on the head and then in the stock. But the way that the angle of that toss was, I don't know if we get maybe a chance to see that replay again, just like the very first one that came out from that. But he threw it down at, like, the perfect angle to not bounce off the wall.
Yeah.
And it was at such a steep angle for him to find that, because Cxti was actually under the stage at that point. If he threw it and clipped the corner, it's just going to bounce off or maybe go straight down. But he was able to kind of skate around that corner with it, with that weapon toss. I feel like
that's a small Fortress of Lion specific thing that you have to do too, because of the way that the walls are, like the column and then the slants of the bow and the walls. Because not every stage quite has that. You can have some stages like Miami Dome who have that column, but it's just actually a rectangle of the stage. So if you get underneath it, the weapon throw that you could do there's quite specific. But yeah, Neeze did a really great job playing around that stage to be able to get that edge guard there. And we're in game number 3 here, where it's like the strangest should have been a 2-0 that I've ever seen. but it's an even game so far. Neeze is keeping his head together after what was really a devastating game 1 throw, I think.
And that shows maturity as a player, to be able to get to that, like, I almost had it moment, and then not let that sit with you in the back of your mind, cooking your brain while you're trying to move into the next game. He forgot about it like a goldfish. He had that 10-second memory, and it was gone all of a sudden, and then he turned up in game 2.
But Cxti with the not quite corner guard, like landing catch there with the spear recovery. Cxti has this really great game plan when he's in this single jump away area in the air with the spear, which is that when his opponents are beneath him, he's bouncing off of them with spear neutral airs and pogos. And then when they're above them, he's just catching them with recoveries, going down, refreshing his jump so that he can get another strong recovery, and then continuing the landing punishes here. Like with the bow, the entire time, Neeze has been trying to get on the ground. Cxti goes back, right underneath them, guards him, gets some extra damage. And that neutral signature is not even gonna, or that side signature is not going to be enough for Neeze to take him down, but that down sig will do it. And we see Cxti reacting there, being like, okay, I got some good damage. I've got this game in the back.
He basically has at least 100 damage on Neeze's second stock, so a solid lead, but Neeze has the guitars in his hands, so we have to worry about that strength potential. Just big duff, big right hand to move Neeze away while he's probably trying to cycle out his weapons, strip the field, and keep Cxti at the weapon disadvantage. He's able to grab the spear, see him cleaning up Neeze's stock right here. Nice down air. Yep.
Weapon throw. It was almost so great during that recovery. Neeze could turn this around.
Now Neeze had to he had to choose the guess there, whether he wanted to be in the push-off column or go right alongside the stage. He happened to guess wrong in that moment, but that could have been the stock.
Yeah, and that whole edge guard came off of what I was highlighting from Cxti's gameplay on the spear, which is that he's landing on his opponent up in the air, watching how they bounce from that attack, and then getting the side air. That was scary. That recovery almost taking Cxti off the top there. Luckily, he touches the ground and goes back to this neutral game. Nice falling Sair to punish the neutral light, and Neeze bringing it back, but still behind a stock, and now the damage is starting to add up.
Oh, the spear is devastating from Cxti today. I expect a lot of spear in this bracket. One of the most sought-after weapons right now. Qatar is going to be another one of those. Of course, that's why we're probably going to see a lot of Lucien today. Oh, Neeze, nice down air. He's going to confirm the edge guard with that one. Even though he had the sweat beads, I know Neeze was not sweating that one whatsoever. Cleaned it up. Turned that 100 damage deficit all of a sudden into a 50 damage deficit.
Yeah, and what was clever about that dare, we'll see a lot of players go for that double dare edge guard back to back, and Neeze actually uses 2 jumps behind him to make Cxti think he's going back to the stage to refresh, and then cancels one of those jumps with that turnaround dare. And look how much damage he's getting. He got the stuff recovery, that's it. Cxti's got to dodge. No, he gets the Sair. Neeze goes too high. I thought Cxti was going to have to fall to the stage and Neeze could get the edge guard. Tons of damage from Neeze, but he's still behind, and Cxti could just nair him until the stock is gone.
Oh my gosh, dude, the juggle potential coming out from Cxti. A D-Light recovery, it's got to do it. That's got to be the game he's probably going to be looking for. Or maybe it's
I think nair will just do it at this point.
It might just be a neutral. He just nairs him like 9 times and gets the KO, kind of doing the same thing that he's doing with Spear
on the recovery.
It's just falling on that nair.
I'm realizing that, and I'm not sure if this is a staple of Cxti's gameplay or just how he's playing against Neeze as a player, but he is catching all of Neeze's landings. Whether he's above the platform or not, Cxti's staying grounded, watching where Neeze is drifting, catching those landings with the bow neutral airs or spear recoveries, and then winning the game off of that. We saw, what, 4 or 5 bow neutral airs back to back to back until eventually just knocked out on its own there in that game number 3.
And there, man, you can see that for the most part of the game, Cxti is ahead of Neeze.
Yeah.
Most of the time, and then towards the end, that's when Neeze like really wakes up. Holy, dude, look at the difference in throws. 86 to 8. That is wild, Tazza.
I don't think it was 86.
I don't think it is either, but like most of the time when I don't trust the stats, I'm wrong.
You really think Neeze threw his guitars 86 times? You think he had more weapon throws than damage?
Look, man, I don't trust part of the creed, but I trust Pranav, all right? At the end of the day, I trust Pranav.
Okay, 86 weapon throws. Double, triple, come on. Another neutral signature. Oh, he gives Cxti the chase dodge and he gets the grab on afterwards. That was amazing. Neeze switching right over to the Asuri, saying he still wants the Qatars, but this is like, depending on what Qatar main you talk to, the frustration pick is like, why do all Qatar players gravitate to Asuri? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because Asuri just kind of has all of that bread and butter stat line, the signature line that Qatar players really want when it comes to shoring up the weaknesses that Qatars have.
Yep.
And seeing that, and also just like, what's more satisfying than hitting the neutral stick twice is he's going to go for it again. Nothing there. Holy cow, Cxti's getting destroyed.
Oh, I thought he was going to ground pound there. No, he just went with the nair. Also, Asuri has like the cheeky quote-unquote gimmick plays with that neutral signature, which if you rely on it as a main tool, you might struggle, but the way Neeze was using it right out of the gate, already picked up the double dunk, has a massive lead, and he's now doing something he wasn't able to do in any of the other games, which is grab a lead, hold a lead, and extend the lead.
And this is a really fast-paced game for 2. Cxti's trying to fight back from the pressure, but Neeze has been relentless with the Qatars. Sideline into down, Cxti thought he was going to dodge away. Cxti dodges through, gets the punish like you said, evens up the stocks 2-2, but if Neeze picks up a sword, I mean, at that point, down sig, neutral sig, side sig, Cxti will be out of there. D-Lane recovery won't do it against Kaya just yet, but we might see Neeze go for that move anyways, just to rack up some extra damage. Yeah, there it is. Gravity cancels the downline, though, and the weapon throw after the ground pound could have been devastating.
Now, we did see some players move away from the Asuri. Like, when it turned into a Qatar meta here at the kind of the beginning of this year, maybe a little bit towards the end of the last year, people were playing Asuri. Then all of a sudden, they started to move away from Asuri because of the sword. They just didn't kind of like the way that the sword felt. Neeze doing a great job, though, picks up that D-Light side air, got it real quick, and he still has a gigantic lead, something he was unable to do in Game 1, unable to do in Game 2, unable to do in Game 3, but all of a sudden here in Game 4, we have a very different Neeze.
Yeah, and I love that you said that, because that was how I was going to begin, like responding off what you were talking about, which is that Neeze feels like a completely different player with how he's playing. That downlight side air adjustment there, because of how he caught him at the ledge, didn't go for the jump, still got the true combo. That kind of adjustment I only see from really true sword mains. Look at Neeze with the double downers, and this time, not going so far with the Sair to lose his own stock. Cxti double recoveries back to the stage, but the damage has already been done. Dash backs, waits for the full momentum momentum of the dash back before putting up the neutral light, and Cxti gets the neutral signature. Evens up the game 1-1, and actually Cxti did not take as much damage as I thought he did.
I feel like we've seen a complete 180 between these two players.
Yeah.
Is Neeze all of a sudden had the lead for the entire most of the game, then all of a sudden came in here at last stock with a 50 damage lead over Cxti. Meanwhile, Cxti is the one who's behind, fighting for his life here. Neeze gonna pick it up, ties up the set. Tazza, we're going into a game 5, seed 5 versus seed like 28.
Yeah, and this is what I was kind of getting into about Neeze when it comes to fighting on LAN, where I feel like Neeze, as well as he performs in his region on these online championships, is vulnerable to a lot of these playstyles that he's not used to, and also just tends to be a little bit more shaky when I'm watching in these environments. Now, I'm going to say the game that I just watched from Neeze right there on the Asuri, take a look at the game development graph there, that was basically what I would expect Neeze to be performing like when he's playing online. That was fantastic, and Cxti did a good job fighting back there. We saw that time where he really just wasn't getting damaged in that second half of game number 4, but we're going to a very small stage. Brawlhalla, we don't get to see this in series because of how small it is, but in singles, we have it on the board.
Now we're seeing Neeze come into this one. He is starting off with the sword, which is probably not what he's wanting here. He wants to swap over to those guitars as fast as possible because we see the destruction from Cxti. I think Cxti's quote-unquote off weapon, the bow, is looking at least so far stronger than the sword from Neeze.
Yeah, that sider comes through there, and Neeze slides right underneath that neutral signature. Gets the silent double down line, gets the nair. Can he get the landing from Cxti? No, Cxti comes down, reverses it with the neutral air on the bow. Neutral sig punish this time. Who's going to go down here? Neeze falling all the way off stage without the jumps. Neeze might not be able to make it back. Gravity cancel silent does not catch the dodge through, and both players make it back to stage. This time Cxti unarmed.
So putting myself in the shoes of a Cxti fan, I wanted Cxti to get that stock from Neeze while he had the guitars. Oh, he might finish this up. Yes, he does, because that meant while Neeze had the guitars, if he got the stock, the next weapon that he would get on the beginning of the next stock would be the sword, his quote-unquote off weapon. But he was able to get the stock and then swap out, so the next weapon he picks up is going to be another set of guitars. So Neeze is in a really good spot until that bow recovery comes through. And now Cxti gets his choice.
We have the scenario that you described there too. Neeze having to pick up a sword going into this next game, which is where Cxti got such a huge lead. Neeze bet it all on a weapon throw neutral light, and the weapon throw missed, and Cxti was able to get the punish. Now we're here in a 2-stock-to-2 situation in game number 5, sword versus spear, which Neeze is still playing pretty well with, but these neutral lights are so good. I've seen spear players do that so much where one neutral light gets hit at the edge and they just turn around and they're like, okay, I'm going to neutral light you again when you dash onto the stage, but that time Neeze was too quick, and Cxti wasn't able to get the second one to come out.
Yeah, that neutral light on the spear can be a reasonably safe move. D-Light into the recovery, almost does it, but not quite. Has the sword, goes for the GC Sig of all choices there. Even if that hit, that would have bounced off the main platform, but he's going to clean this up here with a side air into the weapon toss. The dodge is down. No, he doesn't choose to go down with it. He waits because Cxti is going to recover high. Out comes the D-Light recovery for the KO off the top. Neeze now, all of a sudden, he came into his second stock, basically tied with Cxti, took 50 damage, and then just like stopped taking damage, and then now all of a sudden has all but a full stock lead. He is in the orange. Cxti's adding damage, but here comes guitars.
Recovery hits super high towards the top of the stage, and Cxti falling with that side air, tries to get another recovery. I think D-Light recovery would just do it here on Brawlhalla, and Cxti goes all the way around, punishes with the dare, waits for that weapon spawn, goes up that down light that would have caught him, but Neeze takes him off stage, gets the jump, the air, the Sarah. Is that going to be it? Cxti can't dodge back, and Neeze doesn't even give him a chance to catch him with the nair. But we see Neeze there just taking a moment to take a breath of relief as he wins that game, takes the set 3-2, and that was after a game 1 where, let's just face it, he self-destructed. Like that. He had an amazing highlight into oops, I didn't touch the stage, and Cxti got the game win there. So that was a great job from Neeze. What could have been a really devastating upset for him. But Cxti really well played against, like you said, seed 5 here at San Diego?
Yep, seed 5 versus Cxti coming in at seed 28. Still, the fact that he was able to push the game